March 30th, 1973, Beverly Hills, past midnight. Dean Martin is sitting in his living room watching an old Western on television. The sound is off. He doesn't need sound. He's seen this movie 100 times. A glass of bourbon rests on the table beside him. The ice has melted. The house is silent except for the ticking of a grandfather clock in the hallway. Then the doorbell rings. Dean doesn't move. It rings again. He checks his watch. 1:47 a.m. Nobody visits Dean Martin at 1:47 a.m. Not anymore. The Rat Pack days are over. Frank has his own problems. Sammy is on tour. The parties ended years ago. He walks to the door, opens it. Marlon Brando is standing on his doorstep, the most famous actor in the world. The man who just won an Oscar for The Godfather. The man who refused to accept it. The man who sent a Native American woman to the stage instead. The man Hollywood now wants to destroy. Brando's eyes are hollow. His shoulders slump. He looks like a man who hasn't slept in days. "Everybody hates me, Dino." His voice cracks. "Can I come in?" Dean doesn't hesitate. He steps aside and opens the door wider. "You know where the living room is?" And what happened over the next 3 hours would never make the newspapers, would never become Hollywood legend, would never be discussed in interviews or written in biographies, because some moments are too sacred to share. Some friendships exist outside of fame. To understand why Marlon Brando showed up at Dean Martin's door that night, you need to understand what happened 3 days earlier. March 27, 1973, the 45th Academy Awards. The night Hollywood turned on its biggest star. Marlon Brando won Best Actor for The Godfather. It was his second Oscar, his comeback after years of box office failures, the role that reminded the world why he was the greatest actor of his generation. But Brando wasn't at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion that night. He was at home, watching on television. When his name was announced, a young Native American woman named Sachin Littlefeather walked to the stage instead. She wore traditional Apache dress. She held a speech Brando had written. She told the audience that Brando was declining the award, that he was protesting Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans in film, that he could not accept an honor from an industry built on lies and stereotypes. The audience booed. Some clapped, but the boos were louder. John Wayne had to be physically restrained from charging the stage. His face turned purple with rage. Clint Eastwood made a cruel joke moments later when he presented another award. Raquel Welch mocked her openly. The cameras caught celebrities rolling their eyes, shaking their heads, whispering to each other. The next day was worse. Every newspaper in America called Brando a traitor, a fool, a has-been trying to stay relevant, an egomaniac who couldn't accept success gracefully. Columnists wrote that he had insulted every actor who ever wanted that statue. Talk show hosts made him the punchline of every joke. Hollywood doesn't forgive. Hollywood doesn't forget. And Hollywood had just found its new enemy. But here's what nobody understood about Marlon Brando. He wasn't trying to make a statement. He wasn't trying to be controversial. He genuinely believed he was doing the right thing. He had spent time on Native American reservations. He had seen the poverty, the alcoholism, the suicide rates. He had watched old westerns where Native Americans were portrayed as savages. He couldn't accept a golden statue from an industry that built its fortune on those lies. The cost was immediate. Phone calls stopped. Invitations disappeared. Friends became strangers. Agents advised their clients to distance themselves. Directors crossed his name off lists. In 3 days, Marlon Brando went from Hollywood royalty to Hollywood pariah. He drove around Los Angeles for hours that night. Past midnight, no destination, just driving, trying to understand what had happened, trying to find someone who wouldn't judge him. He ended up at Dean Martin's house. Why Dean? They weren't close friends. They had met at parties over the years, shared a few laughs. Nothing deep, but Brando remembered something Dean said once at a dinner party. Someone had asked Dean what he thought about an actor who turned down a role for political reasons. Dean had shrugged. "A man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. Ain't nobody else's business." That shrug, that simple dismissal of judgment, that refusal to have an opinion about someone else's choices, it stuck with Brando, and on the worst night of his life, it brought him to Dean's door. Dean led Brando into the living room. The television was still playing the silent western, Indians attacking a wagon train. Brando stared at it for a moment. The irony wasn't lost on either of them. Dean walked to the bar. He poured 2 glasses of bourbon, handed one to Brando, sat down in his leather chair. Brando sank into the couch across from him, and then nothing. No questions, no "what were you thinking?" No "you really screwed up." No advice, no opinions, no words at all. Dean just sat there, drinking his bourbon, watching the silent movie, occasionally glancing at Brando, but not staring, not studying, just present, like 2 old friends who had run out of things to say years ago, but still enjoyed each other's company, like 2 men who understood that conversation was overrated. The ice clinked in Dean's glass. The grandfather clock ticked in the hallway. The silent movie flickered on the screen. These were the only sounds, and somehow they were enough. This is where the story becomes something else entirely. 5 minutes passed, 10, 30, an hour. The grandfather clock in the hallway marked the time. Tick, tick, tick. Neither man spoke. Neither man seemed uncomfortable with the silence. Brando had come expecting something, a lecture maybe, or sympathy, or at least curiosity. Everyone wanted to know why. Everyone wanted to understand. Everyone had an opinion they couldn't wait to share. Dean offered none of that. Dean just sat there like it was the most normal thing in the world, like famous actors showed up at his door at 2 a.m. every night, like silence was a perfectly acceptable form of conversation. Brando finished his first drink. Dean noticed. He stood up, walked to the bar, poured another and handed it to Brando, then sat back down. Still no words. The western ended. Another movie started, some old noir film. Dean watched it without really watching. His eyes occasionally drifted to Brando, not with pity, not with judgment, just acknowledgement. "You're here. I see you. That's enough." What was happening in that room was something rare, something most people never experience. 2 men sharing space without the need to fill it. 2 men comfortable enough with themselves to be comfortable with silence. 2 men who understood that sometimes presence is more powerful than words. Here's what Brando didn't know about Dean Martin. Dean understood loneliness, the deep bone-level loneliness of being surrounded by people who love an idea of you. The king of cool, the guy with the drink and the cigarette, the man who made everything look easy. That was a character, a mask Dean built in Steubenville when he was young and vulnerable and needed protection. The real Dean Martin was a man who went to bed at 9 p.m., who played golf alone at dawn, who preferred the company of horses to the company of Hollywood, who had been married 3 times because he didn't know how to let anyone see the real him. Dean knew what it felt like to be famous and invisible at the same time, to have everyone know your name and nobody know your heart, to perform a version of yourself so convincingly that you sometimes forgot who you really were. Brando had the same disease, different symptoms, same illness. The method actor who disappeared into roles because disappearing was easier than being himself. The rebel who fought every system because fighting was easier than belonging. The genius who pushed everyone away because closeness meant being seen. 2 men, 2 masks, 2 hours of silence. And then Dean spoke. The clock showed 3:52 a.m. The noir film had ended. The screen showed static. Dean reached for the remote and turned off the television. The room went darker. Only a single lamp in the corner cast shadows across the walls. Dean looked at Brando, really looked at him for the first time all night. "You did the right thing." Brando's head snapped up. His eyes met Dean's. Dean continued. His voice was low, steady, the voice of a man stating facts, not opinions. "It doesn't matter if they love you. It matters if you love yourself." The words hung in the air, simple words, but in that moment, in that room at nearly 4 a.m., they carried the weight of absolution. Brando's eyes glistened. He didn't wipe them. He just let them glisten. "How do you do it, Dino?" His voice was barely a whisper. "How do you not care what they think?" Dean took a long sip of his bourbon, set the glass down carefully. "Who says I don't care?" A small smile crossed his face. "I just decided a long time ago that I'd rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I'm not." He stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the dark Beverly Hills streets. "You know what the secret is, Marlon? There is no secret. You do what you think is right. Some people love you for it. Some people hate you for it. Either way, you gotta live with yourself when the lights go off and the audience goes home." He turned back to Brando, and for a moment, the mask cracked. The Dean Martin the world knew, the effortless entertainer, the king of cool, disappeared. In his place stood Dino Crocetti from Steubenville, a man who had been poor and hungry and afraid, a man who built a character to survive, a man who understood the cost of being yourself in a world that wants you to be someone else. You stood up for people who can't stand up for themselves. You gave up something valuable because you believed it was right. That takes guts. Dean's voice was quiet but firm. "Don't let them make you feel small for being big." Brando stood up slowly. He set his glass on the table. He walked toward Dean. For a moment, it looked like he might hug him, but that wasn't their way. That wasn't how men like them showed affection. Instead, Brando extended his hand. Dean shook it. "Thank you, Dino." Dean shrugged. The mask slid back into place. The casual indifference returned. "For what?" Brando laughed. It was the first real sound he had made all night, other than words. A genuine laugh. The laugh of a man who had found something he didn't know he was looking for. "I don't know, for not asking questions, for not having opinions, for just being here." Dean walked him to the door, opened it. The early morning air was cool. The sky was starting to lighten on the horizon. A new day, a new chance. Brando stepped outside. He paused on the doorstep, turned back one more time. "You're a good man, Dino. Better than they know." Dean leaned against the doorframe. His face gave nothing away. "Don't tell anyone. I got a reputation to protect." Brando smiled, walked to his car, drove away. Dean stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching the taillights disappear down the street. Then he closed the door, walked back to the living room, sat down in his chair. The bourbon was warm now, the ice long melted. He drank it anyway. What happened next in Marlon Brando's life is well documented. He continued making films, some great, some not. He remained controversial, he remained difficult, but something shifted after that night. People who knew him said he seemed more at peace with being an outsider, more comfortable with being misunderstood. He never publicly spoke about that night at Dean's house. Neither did Dean. Some moments are too important to share with the world. Some conversations are sacred precisely because they remain private. Dean Martin died on Christmas Day, 1995, alone in his Beverly Hills home. The television was playing old westerns. The sound was off, just like that night with Brando. Brando outlived him by 9 years. He died in 2004. When reporters asked Brando about Dean after his death, he said only one thing. He was the real thing. Most of us are pretending. Dino just was. He never elaborated, he never explained, but those who knew Brando said his eyes would get distant whenever Dean's name came up, like he was remembering something precious, something private, something that belonged only to him. There is a lesson in this story, one that Dean Martin understood but would never explain. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is your presence without your opinion. Sometimes people don't need advice, they don't need solutions, they don't need to be fixed. They just need someone to sit with them in the dark, someone who won't judge, won't preach, won't try to make it better. Dean didn't tell Brando he was right. He didn't tell him he was wrong. He just said, whatever you did because you believed it. That's enough. That has to be enough. For what? Dean asked when Brando thanked him. It wasn't false modesty. It was genuine confusion. Because to Dean, he hadn't done anything. He had just been there, just poured some drinks, just shared some silence. But sometimes that's everything. Sometimes being there is the whole thing. The king of cool wasn't cool because he didn't care. He was cool because he cared in a way that didn't require performance. He cared in a way that let other people be themselves. He cared in a way that asked nothing in return. Marlon Brando walked into Dean Martin's house, broken. He walked out whole. Not because Dean fixed him, but because Dean didn't try to. Some wounds heal best in silence. Some questions don't need answers. Some friendships are built not on what we say, but on what we choose not to say. Dean Martin understood this, and on a March night in 1973, he gave Marlon Brando the rarest gift in Hollywood: a room without judgment, a chair without conditions, a silence without awkwardness, and 3 words that changed everything. For what? 2 words, actually, but they carried the weight of 1,000. They said, I don't need your gratitude. I don't need recognition. I just did what any decent person would do. I was there. This is Dean Martin, The Untold Legacy. Let me know in the comments, when was the last time someone just sat with you without trying to fix you? Sometimes that's all we need. If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it with someone who understands that silence can be louder than words. And make sure you're subscribed, because in our next video, we reveal the night Dean Martin taught Elvis Presley the secret to being cool. Until then, keep swinging, Polly.